Hey everybody, what's going on? Trey here, and if you're watching this video, then you already know what this story is going to be about. If not, then allow me to go ahead and put some background information about the setup of this video here. A few videos back in my archive that you can go through if you want, I've alluded to this particular case a multitude of times. I gave a synopsis about it during the whole safety and security video I posted about Job Corps. However, I never really gotten over the event. I didn't mention anything out of respect to the families involved in the incident, and I didn't want to put the business out there until I knew it was 100% safe to just talk about. I wanted to just let the whole thing go because it wasn't like it was a traumatic experience for me personally, but for those who were involved, it was a very scary experience, and a lot of people never really just looked at Job Corps the same way after this happened. If you're watching this video, then that means that I've decided to finally go ahead and open up the discussion about this topic, because this is a reality of Job Corps that people don't want to talk about. What happens if a student dies on center? Keep in mind, this isn't something that most people would think about. This is like one of the last things you would ever think would happen on a government facility, for crying out loud. But I learned, along with many people, that this sadly can and might happen. So it's important for you to understand what happens if this so happened to go down at your center. Let's go to the Job Corps side of things before I get to the personal story here. When you sign up during CPP and you sign all that paperwork, one of those documents that they have you sign is a document basically listing your beneficiaries in the event that you so happen to die on center. They're not expecting you to die on center. Trust me, that's not the intention of the document. It's something that they have in case, in the event that for whatever reason you die and you just so happen to be enrolled in Job Corps, because nobody has a death clock. Nobody knows exactly when they're going to die. So if it so happens that your time runs out on this earth and you happen to be enrolled in Job Corps at the time, then they know who they could give your belongings to. All the money that you earn through Job Corps, that's who they'll go to. The beneficiaries that you listed on the little beneficiary document that they give you. To the personal aspect of things, I know that it is possible for a student to die on center. Unfortunately, it wasn't a natural case. It was not through natural causes. It was through murder. I remember it like it was yesterday, weirdly enough, and in a few months it'll be the anniversary of this case as well. The incident went down on April 22nd, 2015. I remember this clearly because the same day, me and a few of my associates in the TCU Advanced Training Program was able to go and leave campus for training day, and we got to go out of state. We took an Amtrak train ride to Springfield, Illinois, the capital of Illinois, and it was enjoyable. It was a pretty decent trip. It wrecked of Job Corps, but it was a free trip out of state for a few hours, and it was enjoyable. Not so much getting there because Amtrak transportation is pretty slow, but it's enjoyable in a way that is much more scenic and a lot more worthy of the price than catching the Greyhound state to state. So after that whole series of events went down, we returned to campus. It was around, I want to say, a few minutes after dinner began. That's when the whole incident went down. After I ate dinner and went back to the dorm, it was only a while after and I looked out the window, the same window when I saw those two people having sexual intercourse on the campus, which I talked about in another video if you want to see me talk about that. I see it was a group of students who were gathering around outside, and at first glance you thought, okay, maybe a fight was going to break out, but it was more of an atmosphere of fear and concern, as if there was legit worry going on. Nobody really knew what was going on, but they were really scared until the RA in our dorm came down to independent living, to my room to be exact, and basically told us what happened and confirmed the rumors that a student lost their life on center. Of course, I can't tell you word by word about what happened because I wasn't there. The murder happened in dormitory C, and I was in dormitory B, so completely different part of center. From what I was able to interpret from people who were in that dorm during the time, they heard a loud noise, and at first, nobody really thought much of it because they thought it was the sound of a footlocker. For those of you who don't know, a footlocker, it's a large metal object, square shaped like a cube, but it's like really big, like the size of my dresser, like half of my dresser right there, but complete made of metal. That's an example of what a footlocker looks like. After that loud noise, people thought somebody was just slamming a footlocker because over at dormitory C, they're used to putting the footlockers up and their mattress up, part of what they like to call quiet hour, which is where they just clean for an entire hour. It's stupid. It's a stopcore policy, part of the living contract, which you'll get to know all about when you get into Job Corps. So after they heard that loud noise and didn't think much of it, one of the roommates came through after dinner, because after dinner you have to go back to the dormitories anyway. They looked in the guy's room and they noticed this guy missed dinner. Like, hey dude, you okay? Like, you sick or something? Turned the dude over. Oh my god, he's fucking dead! I'm sorry, I shouldn't have freaked out like that, but yeah, like this dude, okay, I can't keep calling him this dude. I'm just gonna call him by his name. Matt. And trust me, this is not me just making up his name. Before I would just make up a name to protect the innocent, you know, and personality, confidentiality. But since the media already blasted the guy's name and the killer's name, I'll call the murderer Matt A and the guy who was killed Matt B. Matt B was the guy who was murdered. No insult to Matty B. Rap. So Matt B was the one who was murdered, and his roommates just found the guy just like bloodied up, of course, and had a gun chilling on the pillow or somewhere. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know where the guy was shot. Obviously, he was shot when in his sleep. I'd like to think I passed in my sleep, but not that way, dude. Not that way. So, what did the center do after they realized the student was dead on center? Well, first things first, they had to call the police. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem, but because I was in St. Louis and the whole Mike Brown thing was still in the back of everybody's mind, yeah, police are not the most welcomed people in St. Louis, particularly Pine Law, St. Louis. Right next to Ferguson, like 5 minutes distance away from Ferguson, Pine Lawn is not the most police-friendly neighborhood. So we go back to the Job Corps Center is in a state of panic. We have the girls having to leave their dormitory so police can search their rooms, make sure the murderer is still not on center, even though by now it's pretty much word of mouth that the murderer is not on the center anymore, but they have to check there anyway to make sure that there was no accomplices, that this was a one-man job or whatever. So after all that happened, it was over with. They had us wait for, I think, over an hour, where they just went through everybody's room. They had police check everybody's room to make sure there was no hidden weapons or anything. It's needless to say that tensions were like ridiculously high, man. You had students who were legit scared, like, oh my god, it could have been me. I could have been shot, dude. There were people who were like, nah, man, it was an inside job. Somebody had it out for him. It was probably a group of people had it out for Matthew B. Nobody really knew the whole story. At the same time, you had people who had the fuck the police mentality already in the back of their minds because of the Mike Brown incident I mentioned before. There's still people who just want to cooperate with police, get this over with so we can have an ease of mind. There was even one guy who actually made a speech, and this spiel I thought was fucking goofy as hell, but he had good intentions, no lie about it. He basically went on the tangent saying that whether you knew the guy or not, somebody got killed here on Job Corps, and the guy came with the same mentality that most of you came to Job Corps to improve yourself, to better yourself, and now he had that opportunity taken from him by somebody who didn't like him. So that didn't really sit well with that particular person, and it shouldn't really sit well with anybody else, really. If you want to go to Job Corps, hell, if you want to go anywhere, and you came there with good intentions, you came there to better yourself, then you shouldn't have your life taken away from you just because of somebody who might feel negative towards you. Yeah, that's about the worst shit I've ever heard that happened in Job Corps. After all the initial shock wore off, the campus, they wanted to try to clean up center because this was getting a whole bunch of bad publicity from Manic, who was the company that ran the center at the time up until September when I left, when they decided they don't want anything to do with St. Louis Job Corps Center anymore. Needless to say, this was pretty much a good dead ringer why they don't want anything to do with the St. Louis Job Corps Center anymore. Although, could be easily said that they have other reasons why they didn't want to be part with that center. They said that it was just not enough money to go around, that they were making cuts all over the place, and St. Louis was just costing too much money. Let's be honest here. If the murder didn't happen, the chances are the Manic Corporation would still take full responsibility for that place like they did before I left. Plain and simple. As for the center itself, did security take a hit? In a way. Most of the people that were on duty when this murder happened is still employed, last time I checked, at the center. Although the chief security guy in charge got replaced. Everything else is pretty much the same. Some people got upshifted. Some people got switched around. I know one security guard got moved to being an RA, and one other security guard got promoted, and it's a whole bunch of other things that went down in circles, but I can't list every little bit of detail that went into security, besides how they basically gypped me when it came to getting my permissions. After that whole incident went down, I was pretty hit. Not personally, because again, I didn't know Matthew or his killer. I didn't know neither of those two, so it didn't affect me personally, but I was affected intrapersonally through my friendships with people who were in that dorm at the time, who legit felt scared for their life that there was a murderer in their dorm. And I felt nothing but just sadness and empathy for them, because how could you comfort that idea that, yo, I'm sorry there was a fucking murderer in your dormitory and that you could have probably been shot, but hey, at least it wasn't me. Right. At the end of the day, I remember everybody who I talked to about it on the phone, from my parents to my sister, they all told me the same thing, like, you gotta get the fuck out of there, dude. And surely enough, I did. It wasn't nearly as fast as I would have wanted it to be, but I was able to get out of that center, and I was able to get a job as well. And I like to consider myself as one of the lucky ones who was able to leave instead of just leaving after summer break and never coming back. Although that is a good idea for some of you who really just want to leave center, although you kind of forfeit your right to any additional bonuses that you get after completing the program. That's just you. Money isn't everything. Needless to say, people did leave center after this whole incident happened. I mean, come on, who wants to stay on a center that had a murder happen? Like, not that many people. Not that many people would. After that whole ordeal happened, there was a lot of tension between students and staff after that as well. like really stiff tension, like real airtight. I remember at one point it seemed like I remember I was looking through my old tweet archive, and at one point I remember I had a lot of hate to staff as well, along with other students, because it felt like at one point the staff was almost blaming us in a way for allowing this murderer to get away. I'm not 100% sure what was the mentality of the center at this point. Besides, how did this student was able to get on center with a gun? And besides, instead of just questioning security, they question students. And one half they have students actually questioning the idea and throwing out their whole hypothesis and their theories of how it could happen, while the other side refusing to say anything because they're in the mind of, yo, they're just tricking us to snitch. I'm not saying shit. Y'all idiots telling them how y'all sneak weed and alcohol on center. Like, dude, this is not the time or place. I understand, sure, like, if that's your concern, fine, but the rest of the students aren't worried about weed and fucking getting drugs on center right now. We're focusing on how to prevent fucking Johnny McBang Bang on center again. It took, I think, a week until they finally captured Matthew A., the killer, and we finally saw the whole picture and the follow-up in the local news about him being captured. I think they said the bail for that dude for like $1 million, if not higher, which I thought was just about right. I mean, you killed someone out of a government facility, dude. They're not going to let you off on easy bail money. No way. No fucking way, dude. It didn't even take that long either. We had people who try to warp the story into something more. Like, oh, Matthew B. deserved to get killed. He was a fucking rapist. Look, there's a old jail posting online with a guy with the name just like it. And it looks just like the guy who got murdered, even though I never saw him a day in my life. He looks just like him, Trey. He was a fucking murderer. He was a fucking rapist. He got what he deserved. I'm not saying I know the whole story. Again, I don't know either Matthew A. or Matthew B. personally. And for the people to just go and make these assumptions and say he deserved it. Like, what kind of shit are you smoking, dude? But if he was, which I'm not saying he was. I'm not saying he was. I'm still not going to go and defend that somebody should have fucking killed him. Because at the end of the day, we're just people. A group of people should be the ones to decide if a person should be put to death, not just one person. Alright, there's a reason why it's a trial and jury. Hell, there's a reason why God decides, if a person should live or die. Depending on your preferences, some people might not believe. Again, at the end of the day, one person's opportunity to change himself was taken away from him, and personally, that affected me some type of way because that's pretty messed up. Imagine if this happened in college. Hell, this shit has happened in colleges. And even still, that's still fucking airy, dude. That's my experience with death at Job Corps. There's a reason why 422 is such a memorable date to me. Right next to 420 and 625. Well, a lot of dates I really know starts has a 2 in it. I don't know why. I guess number 2 is just a thing with me. Again, I'm getting out of topic here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you watched all the way through, props to you, dude. And yeah, see you guys next week. Peace.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want more videos. Like if you appreciated the information. And share to spread the knowledge.